Hey everyone, this is going to be let's see, I guess this will be the fourth video out of I think what's going to end up being five. Today I'm going to show you how to sandwich your quilt, which means we're going to put the layers together, how to baste them, and we'll talk about the ways you can baste the quilt, and we'll talk about our quilting. One thing before we start sandwiching here, so again, I'm doing like the ultra mini. Yours is 4 times this big. Before we start sandwiching, before we start quilting, I want everybody to flip their project over and check out the back. I want to make sure that you guys have ironed these seams open really well so they lay nice and flat. And then on the front, put a little spray starch on there, iron it again, making sure that you're opening these seams up all the way so that way it lies as flat as it can. If we don't pull it all the way open, and then we're going to lose a little bit there, and a little bit there, and a little bit there. Hey. Oh, I'm sorry. This is my lovely sewing assistant, Macy. He was just an attention whore. Hey, Mace. So if we don't open up all these seams, we're going to lose a little bit of fabric in each of these seams, and that will add up over the course of your projects. So really, as you're ironing it, give it a little bit of a pull to make sure these lay open and nice and super flat. Give it a little bit of a spray starch. Again, I'm doing the Ultra Mini. You're all bigger. Before we sandwich it, let's talk about how we can quilt this. It's not too big of a project, so if you don't want to draw any lines on it with a disappearing, your favorite kind of disappearing pen, you don't have to. My favorite right now is this Leonis water erasable pen. A lot of us grew up using the blue pens, the disappearing pens with the white tops. Those tops never stayed on for me. I love how well these tops stay on. Whenever I do my sewing class, I give these as part of the little kit. You can find them on Amazon. I'll post a link on there. Anyway, that's my favorite disappearing pen. Let's talk about the ways we can sew this. On point, you can go directly all the way across each square, going from point to point in one direction, and then rotating, go point to point the other direction. That's going to put an X through each of your little blocks. That'll be a nice way. Another super simple way is to simply stitch on either side of the ditch. What's the ditch? The ditch is this space in between where the fabrics meet. So you could move your needle all the way to one side, stitch on one side here, move your needle all the way to the other side, line it up on this side, stitch it all the way down there. It'll do a nice cross hatch grid that I think is very folksy and a lot of fun. If any of you have a machine embroidery options, on a couple different ones of these, I've embroidered holly leaves and berries going around it, and that's really nice, a fun feature. You can hand quilt this. The only thing I'm going to warn you about the hand quilting is because of the fusible interface, you are going to need a nice sharp needle, and you are going to need to use a thimble because it is a little bit of an extra layer to go through. But hand quilting this would be gorgeous. When I make these, the full-size ones, I've made the full-size ones for friends and family dozens of times. I'll put their middle initial inside. I'll put Merry Christmas, something like that, and it turns out to be a nice gift. There's Macy again, begging for attention on the little one. And she's sitting on my script. Come on. There we go. Let's talk about how you want to sandwich this quilt. In the kit, you got a piece of batting, which is the fluffy stuff that goes in the middle. You got a piece of backing fabric. Chances are it was white with a white polka dot or white with maybe a snowflake, something like that. I'm using a scrap piece that I got at Walmart a few years ago. So one way you can do this, if you have a tile floor or a large kitchen counter, you can actually tape this, your backing fabric that's been nice and spray starched and nice and iron flat. You can tape this to a surface, and then you can get it nice and smooth. Then you'll put your batting on top of it, smooth it out real nice. Then you'll take your quilt top, put it on there, smooth it out nice and flat. From here, if this was a large quilt, I want to say anything bigger than a baby blanket, I would be using safety pins, great big old safety pins, to baste this thing together. Basting is how we temporarily hold these layers together. For small projects, I like spray glue. This is a German brand that I got while I was in Germany, and I'm down to my last bottle. Just about any all-purpose spray glue will work on this. Let it dry, unless it's specifically for fabric or quilting, let it dry overnight or hit it with an iron and let it dry for a while. That way we know it's nice and dry and it's not going to gum up your needle too badly. So if we're going to spray baste this, we'd actually do this in a little bit of a different way. We'd lay our batting down and center up our backing fabric. We'd fold it over halfway. And this is the same way that I'd be doing this if I'd be doing a large project. And then give this one side of the batting a spray. And then working from the center out, smooth it out. And then rotate, pull this over, hit this side with a little bit of spray base, and working from the center out, smooth it out all the way. Before I go to the next step, I have to hit it with iron. Open a window, unless you want to get a little bit of a buzz. Flip that over. Pick off any pieces of thread, because most everybody's background is white and off-whites. Make sure that your batting doesn't have any big pieces of material in it, any big pieces of thread, any cat hair. Nice smooth surface. So I'll take my quilt top, smooth that out real nice. And the same thing for this one. I'm going to fold it over halfway, approximately. Give it a bit of a hit with the spray starch or with the spray glue. Smooth it out from the center. We want to work from the center out, smoothing out any wrinkles. Then we're going to pull this over, hit that side with some glue, and then again working from the center out, flatten it out and smooth out any wrinkles. If you are using spray glue, then you can draw any quilt lines that you want to work with after you've worked on your project. If you want to use pins, basting pins, I would recommend drawing out your lines before. That way you don't have to go over the pins. I'll include some pictures of how I've quilted these in the past, along with a couple links for spray glue and water-soluble pens. Tune in this time next week and I will show you how to put the binding on. The binding is the finishing piece that goes around the edge. It's arguably the hardest part of a quilt because you only do it once per quilt. You've pieced over 100 different pieces, so you've gotten really good at that. You've quilted a whole bunch, so you've gotten really good at that. But on every quilt, you only get to bind it once, so it takes a long time to get pretty good at it. I'll show you a simple way to do it, and I'll show you some cheater ways to do it. Everybody take care, be safe, and happy quilting!